Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, Counter-Spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve. Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into our time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
An episode of radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense. An episode starring Geraldine Fitzgerald, June 15th, 1944. This episode having to do with the Alexander Hamilton-Burr duel, entitled A Friend to Alexander.
Roma Wines present Suspense. Roma Wines, made in California for enjoyment throughout the world. Salud.
Your health, senor.
Roma Wines toast the world. The wine for your table is Roma Wine, made in California for enjoyment throughout the world.
The Roma Wine Company of Fresno, California, welcomes you again to this weekly half hour of Suspense. Tonight from Hollywood, Roma Wines bring you as stars Miss Geraldine Fitzgerald and Mr. Richard Wharf. Miss Fitzgerald and Mr. Wharf are with us to play in an unusual tale by the unusual James Thurber, called A Friend to Alexander. And now, with James Thurber's poignant and strange story, and with the performance of Richard Wharf as the man who was a friend to Alexander, and of Geraldine Fitzgerald as his wife, Bess, who relates these events to us, we again hope to keep you in suspense.
Harry was a laughing, happy-go-lucky fellow before he began to have those dreams. I guess he was pretty much like dozens of other men who go to work every morning, settle down in soft chairs with their newspapers after dinner, and like a weekend in the country now and then. He was fond of easy living and good times. Like everyone else, he talked of the war, rationing, tires, and his golf scores. Until those nightmares began to plague him. At first, I was amused.
You know, I've been dreaming about Aaron Burr every night.
What for?
Well, how do I know what for?
Aaron Burr's a funny person to be dreaming about nowadays. I mean, with all the countries in the world at war with each other.
What's so funny about dreaming?
Maybe you're upset.
Everybody dreams, don't they?
I don't know why you see Aaron Burr in your dreams.
Well, I do.
Where do you see him?
Oh, places. Washington Square, Bowling Green, or on Broadway.
Even here on 55th Street?
No, mostly downtown. I'll be talking to a woman in a Victoria, a woman holding a white lace parasol.
Oh.
And then suddenly there will be Aaron Burr, bowing and smiling and smelling like a carnation, telling his stories about France and getting off his insults.
Who is the woman in the Victoria?
Huh?
The woman. Who is she?
Oh, how do I know? You know about people in dreams, don't you? They're nobody at all or everybody.
But you see Aaron Burr plainly enough, though. I mean, he isn't anybody or nobody or everybody.
Oh, all right. Maybe I don't know who the woman is. Maybe it's Madame Jumel or Mittens Willett or a girl I went to high school with.
Who's Mittens Willett?
Well, she was a famous New York actress in her day, 50 years ago or so. She's buried in an old cemetery on 2nd Avenue. I've seen the tombstone.
That's very sad.
Why is it?
I mean, she probably died young. Almost all women did in those days.
He's a vile, cynical cad. I was standing and talking to Alexander Hamilton when Burr stepped up and slapped him in the face. When I looked at Hamilton, who do you suppose he was?
I don't know. Who?
My brother Walter, the one I told you about. The one who was killed by that tramp in the cemetery?
Harry, I never could get that story
Well, I've told you
straight.
about it a dozen times, that the tramp came up to him when his back was turned.
What was he doing in the cemetery?
Well, that's not the point. He was killed. That's what's important. I loved him very much.
I don't understand what
Well,
anyone...
what's the use of telling you? Every time I start mentioning it, you ask the same question.
I understand now, dear. When you looked at Hamilton, he was your brother Walter.
Yes.
Harry, maybe we ought to go to the country for more weekends.
Weekends?
Yes, maybe we don't...
Oh, I'm going to bed.
For a time that evening, I worried about Harry. Not about his dream. Why shouldn't he dream? But I wondered about his health. He looked so So unlike himself. I was glad when he went to bed. A good night's sleep was just what he needed, I thought. Sleep. How could I know? The next morning, we were quietly eating our grapefruit when Harry flung down his spoon.
I wish he'd go back to France and stay there. Him and his la-la.
Who, dear? Oh, you mean Aaron Burr. Did you dream about him again?
Yes, and he said la-la to me.
Why should he say la-la?
Look, I was at the tavern and we were drinking ale. I said something funny. I don't remember what it was. Something amusing about what Ben Franklin had said to Washington once. It was one of those things, you know.
No, I don't. Have some more coffee, dear.
No, I don't want any more coffee. I made this remark and everyone laughed. Everyone but Burr, that is. He sort of sniffed and then he said la-la.
Well, why not? I mean, is there anything wrong about him saying la-la?
Well, it's the way he said it. He was sneering at me. They all noticed it.
Who, dear? Who noticed it?
The others, all of them, and Hamilton. I was there with Hamilton. It was swell until Burr came in, Aaron Burr.
I don't see why you dream about him all the time. Don't you think you ought to take some luminol?
I'm not sick, I tell you. I know what I'm dreaming.
I just thought, well, it's always Burr, and that seems odd.
Why? Why shouldn't I dream about Burr if I want to?
But you don't want to.
No, but I can't help it. Everywhere I go with Alexander, sooner or later, Burr shows up, and he makes those nasty remarks. Last night, he elbowed Alexander out of his way. He did it deliberately.
Alexander?
Hamilton.
Oh, Alexander Hamilton.
Yes, goodness knows I'm familiar enough with him by this time to call him by his first name.
You know, we might go to the Old Drovers Inn this weekend. You like it there.
Hamilton has become not only my brother Walter, but practically every other guy I've ever liked.
Don't you like the Old Drovers Inn anymore?
Isn't it natural that Hamilton should represent my brother and guys I like? Well, that's natural, isn't it?
Yes, I suppose it is.
Then why are you looking at me like that?
You know, dear, I wish you'd go and see Dr. Fox.
I don't want to go and see Dr. Fox. I want Aaron Burr to stop sneering at me. And my clothes. He looks at me and his lip curls up and he says, la, Mr. Andrews, what odd taste you have.
I wish you'd go and see Dr. Fox.
I'm going to the zoo and feed popcorn to the rhinoceros. That makes things seem right. For a little while, anyway.
I thought he'd forgotten all about that ancient pistol duel, because for 2 days after that, he lost his haggard, tired look and actually seemed cheerful. But one night, about 5 a.m, he came into my room in pajamas and bare feet, his hair disheveled and his eyes wild.
He got him. The rotter got him. Alexander fired in the air and smiled at him, just like Walter must have smiled.
Like Walter? Oh, yes, dear, your brother Walter, who was killed in the cemetery.
This was at Weehawken in New Jersey.
What? Your brother?
No, Hamilton and Burr, their duel. Hamilton had a white ruff around his neck. Burr was in black tights, French clothes. Alexander lifted his pistol and fired in the air, and then he smiled at Burr. And then that fiend from hell took deliberate aim. He took so long. He meant to take his time about it. I saw him grin. Then he pointed his pistol at Alexander and fired. He killed him in cold blood. Foul scum.
Don't. Here, darling. Take some of these pills.
No, I don't want any.
Oh, take it. You'll feel better.
No, I don't want any, I tell you.
Here, swallow. Please, dear, swallow.
All right.
There, that's better.
Cad. The rotten, sneaking cad. He grinned just as he fired. And Alexander clutched himself at the stomach. And then he shook his head and he tried to walk forward. And then he fell with his mouth open. As though he wanted to say something. And Burr just stood there, grinning.
I finally got him to see Dr. Fox, and he said Harry was fine, heart perfect, everything. But Aaron Burr did not lead my husband to sweeter or more peaceful dreams. Harry said nothing about it for several mornings, but I could tell he was still being tortured by these ghosts. He brooded over his breakfast. He didn't answer me when I spoke to him.
What was that?
Only my butter knife, dear.
Oh.
Harry, are you still dreaming about that man?
I wish I hadn't told you about it. Forget it, will you?
I can't forget it with you going on this way.
Can't you forget I mentioned it?
What does he do now?
He goes around bragging that he did it with his eyes closed. He says he didn't even look.
Didn't look when?
When he killed Alexander in the duel.
Well, what does...
He claims that he can hit the ace of spades at 30 paces blindfolded. Furthermore, since you asked what he does now, he jostles me at parties now.
I think you should stay out of this, Harry. It wasn't any business of yours anyway, and it happened so long ago.
I'm not getting into anything. It's getting into me. Can't you see that?
I see that we've got to get you away from here. Maybe if you slept someplace else for a few nights, you wouldn't dream about him anymore.
I don't know.
Oh, let's go to the country tomorrow. We'll stay at Lime Rock Lodge.
Bess, why can't we visit the Crowleys? They live in the country.
All right, fine.
Bob has a pistol. We could do a little target shooting.
What do you want a pistol for?
Plenty of open space.
I'd think you'd want to get away from shooting.
Yes. Yes, sure, dear, sure.
A Friend to Alexander, starring Geraldine Fitzgerald, June 15th, 1944, on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
You ever make a change and then think, why didn't I do this years ago? Well, that's how people feel about switching to Medishare for their health care, especially now with inflation the way it is. People are very happy with the savings. Most families save about $500 a month when they switch. It's a huge help when prices are going up so fast in so many other areas. And Medishare's customer satisfaction rate is double that of health insurance. It's just a different experience, and people really like that. Medishare is an alternative to health insurance. It's a community of Christians who share each other's healthcare bills, and it's been going strong for over 25 years. It really is the gold standard, the most trusted name in healthcare sharing. Find out why people love it, find out why they rave about the customer service, and find out how good it feels to save some money right now. They're super easy to talk to. Here's the number, 833-34-BIBLE. That's 833-34-BIBLE, 833-34-BIBLE.
Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, more of Suspense. June 15th, 1944, Geraldine Fitzgerald starring in A Friend to Alexander.
The vacation seemed a success at first. When we arrived at the Crowley's house in the cab, I thought I'd left my suitcase at the railroad station. Harry laughed his old normal laugh for the first time in many days as he found the bag and handed it to me. And then he leaned over and kissed me.
Good old Connecticut.
Oh, Harry, this is wonderful.
We'll have a grand time.
Yes, darling. Here they come.
Oh, good old Bob.
Hello.
Remind me of telling that rabbit joke.
Hello, Madison.
I'll take your bags, Mr. Andrews.
Oh, thanks, Madison. Good to see you.
Thank you, sir. Hello there.
Well, Bob, how's the old country squire?
Fine. How have you been?
Never better voice. Good to be here. Hello, Alice.
Well, you two, I'm glad you've come. It gets kind of dull out here in the hinterlands.
Well, Harry and I'll fix that.
Wait until you get one of our extra special cold martinis into you. You'll feel ship-shape
You
then.
still know how to mix them, huh?
Better than ever. Get lots of practice these long country winters.
Right.
It was grand, seeing Harry's face relaxed and smiling over his cocktail glass. When I went to bed that night, I felt that at last that nasty old business of the dream was over. And I was happy. But when I awoke the next morning, I saw my husband lying rigid on his back, staring at the ceiling.
One Henry Andrews, architect.
What's the matter, dear?
Nothing.
Oh, why don't you go back to sleep, Harry? It's only 8 o'clock, and this is the country.
One Henry Andrews, an architect.
What are you talking
That's
about?
what he calls me.
Calls you? Who?
One Henry Andrews, an architect. He keeps saying it in his nasty, sneering little voice. One Henry Andrews!
Harry, please don't yell. It'll wake the whole house. It's early. People want to sleep.
I'm beneath him. I'm just nobody. I'm a man in a gray suit. Be on your good behavior, my good man, he says, or I shall have one of my lackeys give you a taste of the riding crop.
Why should he say that to you?
You ask me why?
He wasn't such a great man, was he? I mean, didn't he try to sell Louisiana to the French or something behind Washington's back?
He was a traitor.
Then why worry what he says?
He was a scoundrel, but he had a very brilliant mind.
I was in hopes that you weren't going to dream about him anymore. I thought if we came up here that...
It's him or me. I can't stand this forever.
Neither can I. As I had expected, Harry spent most of the afternoon with Bob shooting at targets. At first, they just aimed at the paper squares. It all seemed to be good-natured and in fun. After a while, Harry stood with his back to the dead tree trunk on which the targets were nailed. Then he walked 30 paces ahead in a stiff-legged manner, and his face was set in stern lines. His revolver was at arm's length above his head when he turned suddenly and fired. Bob dropped to the ground, scared.
What's the big idea, Harry?
But Harry didn't answer. He started to walk back to that dead tree trunk again.
Oh, I get it.
Then, with his back to the target, he began marking off the 30 paces. Bob called to him.
I think they kept their arms hanging straight down. I don't think they stuck them up in the air.
But my husband continued to count off. At the 30th step, he lowered his arm, wheeled about suddenly, and fired from his hip.
Hey, what are you doing?
2 of the shots missed the tree, but the last one...
Hey, watch out!
Like a mechanical man or someone in a trance, Harry began to walk back to the tree again without a word, his lips tight, his eyes bright, his breathing coming fast.
Look, it's my turn, Bob.
But Harry about-faced and stalked on. This time, when he fired, his eyes were closed. Poor Bob didn't know what to make of this strange behavior.
Good heavens, man. Give me that gun, will you?
Without a protest, Harry let him take it. For the first time, he spoke.
I need a lot more practice, I guess.
Not with me standing around. Come on, let's get back to the house and shake up a drink. I got the jumps.
I need a lot more practice.
I guess I must have slept soundly that night because I didn't hear him leave the room. He must have crawled out of bed, dressed silently, and crept out of the room. The sun was just coming up, and the light was hard, and the air was cold. Then I heard the shots. Harry! I threw on a dressing gown and ran downstairs. The Crowleys were in the hall. Is Harry all right?
Certainly sounds like it.
Where is he? What's he doing?
Well, it sounds as though he's out behind the studio shooting.
Oh, Alice.
Oh, take it easy, Beth. Bob will go out and get him. Well, maybe he had a nightmare or walked in his sleep.
No, he never walks in his sleep. He's awake all right.
Well, let's go down and get some coffee. He'll need some.
Yeah, I'll need some, too. What the dickens is the matter with him, anyway?
Oh, I don't know. I'm so sorry to
You go get him, Bob.
At your service, madam, alive or dead.
Bob, stop it.
Well, okay, I'll do my best. Hey, Harry! Harry! Harry, what's the matter with you?
Huh? What?
What the dickens you doing out here in this freezing air?
What?
Only your pants and your shirt and your shoes on.
I'll get him one of these nights.
What are you...
I'll get him one of these nights.
By this time, I was really frightened. When we returned to the city, Harry was the picture of gloom. Our first night back. I looked at him as he lay on the chaise lounge in my bedroom in his blue dressing gown, smoking a cigarette. He was haggard and tired, and he kept biting his lower lip. I mixed a scotch and water nightcap for him.
No, thanks. No liquor. I need a steady hand. Look, watch my hand. Does it tremble? Is it steady?
Yes, very.
That's good. That's very good. You need a steady hand, you know.
For what, dear?
Oh, things.
Harry, will you sleep in my room tonight?
No. You'll keep shaking me all night to keep me awake. You're afraid to let me meet him.
Are you still on that?
Why do you think everybody's better than I am? I can outshoot him the best day he ever had.
Of course, dear.
In the waistcoat, right next to the middle button. He has 3 big pearl buttons on his waistcoat. Came from France.
Why don't you dream about it somebody else? Anybody else,
You'd like
please.
that. You'd like that, wouldn't you? You'd like to have me dream about somebody who wouldn't hurt a fly. Somebody like that because you knew I'd never get in a duel with him.
A duel? You're dreaming of a duel now?
Ever since Hamilton died, Burr knows I hate him. It's nearly over now.
Harry.
It's him or me. I'll get him, the rotter.
But Harry...
I know I'll get him. I have a modern pistol. He has to use an old-fashioned single-shot muzzle loader.
Is that quite fair?
Fair? What do I care whether it's fair or not? Was it fair the way he shot Alexander? Was it?
Don't be mad with me, Harry.
I'm sorry, darling.
I'm very unhappy.
I'm sorry, darling.
And I'm worried sick.
Oh, I'm sorry, darling. Don't cry. Please don't cry. It upsets me when you cry. And you mustn't be upset. I mustn't be upset. I must be very calm and rested. My hand must be steady tonight. Especially tonight.
I'm so worried, Harry.
Oh, don't worry about me. I'll be all right. I'll be fine. My hand is like a rock.
later, when I kissed him goodnight, I knew it was really goodbye. He didn't say anything, and neither did I. It's just that he seemed so far away, in another world. And each moment I felt that he was becoming more and more remote. Something told me he wasn't coming back. I couldn't sleep. After an hour of tossing and turning, I went to Harry's room. He was sleeping peacefully. I sat down in his chair and watched over him for a long while. Then finally, I must have fallen asleep.
Beautiful morning.
It was about 5 in the morning when I awoke. Harry was talking in his sleep.
Oh, yes. Doctor? Good of you to come, Doctor. Yes. Often misty at this hour.
Harry?
Are they loaded? Splendid.
Harry? Wake up.
Yes, I'm perfectly ready. Is Mr. Burr? He is. Good. Shall we proceed?
June 15th, 1944, Suspense on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
No offense, but are you a little fat when you look in the mirror? How would you like to learn the secrets to lose 3 to 5 pounds a week easily without joining the gym or going through any crazy diets? It's called Body Sculpt by Med Diet. For the last 2 decades, we've been helping people just like you that have pounds they want to shed. We've helped millions of people lose thousands and thousands of pounds over the years. And now it's your turn. Learn the secrets of how to lose weight with one simple phone call. You'll see an amazing difference in a matter of days. Don't believe us? We'll offer you a money-back guarantee. If you're ready to start losing weight right now, call right now to learn more about your risk-free order to Body Sculpt.
Call for your risk-free offer. 800-738-5332. 800-738-5332. 800-738-5332. That's 800-738-5332.
Are you in bad pain? You know what I mean. Your knees hurt. Your shoulder hurts. Your elbow and back are constantly killing you. And I'm sure you've tried every pain pill or cream available at the drugstore. Am I right? Well, here's something you haven't tried. Pain Magic. Pain Magic is not available at any drugstore. The only place you can get it is by calling the special toll-free number I'm about to give you.
And to make things even better, call right now and find out about our buy one, get one free offer. We're so confident it'll work for you that we offer a free bottle with your purchase. No prescription required.
Call now to learn how you can get Pain Magic and get rid of your pain. Remember, your results may vary.
800-492-8164. 800-492-8164. 800-492-8164. That's 800-492-8164.
Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, the conclusion of Suspense, A Friend to Alexander, starring Geraldine Fitzgerald, from June 15th, 1944.
Shall we proceed? No, I do not care to make any statement.
Wake up.
Very well.
Harry?
I understand it perfectly. 10 paces. Turn and fire at the dropping of the handkerchief. Yes. 10 paces.
Harry!
Thank you for acting as my second, Mr. J. It's, of course, extremely good of you. Very well, then. I'm quite ready. One. 2. 3. 4.
Harry, please.
5.
Don't, Harry.
6. 7. 8. 9. 10.
Harry? Harry, dear. Harry? Dr. Fox was puzzled when he examined Harry.
It's extraordinary. His heart was as sound as a dollar when I saw him the other day.
He seemed to be fine, Dr. Fox.
I can't understand it.
What?
Why, his heart stopped as if he'd been shot.
Shot?
Yes, of course there are no gunshots.
Shot?
Well, Mrs. Andrews, you...
Shot?
Oh, no, you'll have to calm yourself. You can't help him now.
I should have known it would happen. I kept staring at Harry's right hand. The 3 fingers next to the index finger were closed stiffly on the palm, as if gripping the handle of a pistol. The taut thumb was doing its part to hold that invisible handle tightly and unwaveringly. But it was the index finger which held my eye the longest. I looked carefully to make sure that I was right. Yes, it was so. That index finger was curved inward slightly, as if it were about to press the trigger of a pistol. So there had been a duel after all. Perhaps there was no gunshot wound, but Harry had been shot as surely as he was dead. Dr. Fox saw me staring and spoke to me.
What are you looking at, Mrs. Andrews?
Harry never even fired a shot. Aaron Burr killed him the way he killed Hamilton.
What are you talking about?
Aaron Burr shot him through the heart. I knew he would.
Yes, but there's no evidence.
I knew he would! Then Dr. Fox put an arm around me. He looked at me gently and a bit frightened, the way I used to look at Harry when he told me about his dreams. He led me to his assistant and whispered something. He thought I didn't hear him, but I did.
She's crazy. Stark, raving crazy.
I let the assistant take me away. Maybe he thought I was crazy, too. But now, I knew. Aaron Burr got Harry. Just as he had killed Hamilton in that old quarrel long ago. I knew he would. I knew he would!
And so closes A Friend to Alexander, starring Geraldine Fitzgerald and Richard Worth, the James Thurber story, which was tonight's tale of Suspense. Suspense is produced and directed by William Spear. Next Thursday, same time, you will hear Lucille Ball in Suspense.
Presented by Roma Wines, R-O-M-A, made in California for enjoyment throughout the world.
June 15th, 1944, Suspense on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
Are you suffering with arthritis or osteoporosis? Do you have diabetes? Did you know that these are just 2 of the hundreds of diseases that have seen improvement with Dr. Wallach's incredible longevity products? You can't get them at a health food store. The only way to get them is to call us at 800-214-0065. That's 800-214-0065. Do you have heart disease, fibromyalgia, or high blood pressure? Do you have a terrible time losing weight? Dr. Wallach can help. He was a veterinarian and cured diseases in animals. He felt that he could do the same for humans, so he became a physician. Over 50 years of research and helping people like you goes into every bottle of Dr. Wallach's amazing discoveries. Do you want to feel better? Learn how to treat the cause of your problem rather than covering up the symptoms with drugs. Call 800-214-0065. That's 800-214-0065. Are you suffering with arthritis or osteoporosis? Do you have diabetes? Did you know that these are just 2 of the hundreds of diseases that have seen improvement with Dr. Wallach's incredible longevity products? You can't get them at a health food store. The only way to get them is to call us at 800-214-0065. That's 800-214-0065. Do you have heart disease, fibromyalgia, or high blood pressure? Do you have a terrible time losing weight? Dr. Wallach can help. He was a veterinarian and cured diseases in animals. He felt that he could do the same for humans, so he became a physician. Over 50 years of research and helping people like you goes into every bottle of Dr. Wallach's amazing discoveries. Do you want to feel better? Learn how to treat the cause of your problem rather than covering up the symptoms with drugs. Call 800-214-0065. That's 800-214-0065.
Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, we wrap up a Yours Truly Johnny Dollar story. This is The Laughing Matter. And, of course, John Dehner has the lead role in this under Bob Bailey as Johnny Dollar. This episode originally broadcast June 15th, 1956.
From Hollywood, it's time now for...
Johnny Dollar.
Would you ask, John... Oh, it is you.
Was there some doubt about it?
No, but I was phoning Captain Peral.
He's out of his office at the moment. What's the matter, Burton? Somebody shooting at you again?
That's not funny, Mr. Dollar.
Who's laughing?
A man's been murdered, you know, and I think that's anything but a laughing matter.
I said, who's laughing?
And except for the whims of fate, it might well be me lying dead at this moment.
And that's really why you're upset, isn't it, Burton? Because it might have been you. You're not really concerned about Al's death.
I was extremely fond of the boy.
You were no fonder of him than he was of you, so save that good old lovable Charlie business for your television audience. I never did buy it myself.
Dollar, may I remind you that your position...
I know my position in it. I'm an Ensenada to protect your life because some company was crazy enough to write a $500,000 policy on you. All right, you're still alive, aren't you? Goodbye, Burton.
Tonight and every weekday night, Bob Bailey in the transcribed adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. From Special Investigator Johnny Dollar, location Ensenada, Mexico, to the Home Office, Union States Casualty Company, Hartford, Connecticut. Assignment, The Laughing Matter. Expense account, final page. Item 12, 50 cents, 2 bottles of beer, one for myself and one for Capitan Peral. We sat in his office in the Commandancia de Police and drank them slowly and watched the sun sink behind the headlands across the bay. And we waited. The daytime heat reluctantly loosened its grip, and the town, pushing off the lethargy of afternoon, stirred to the quickened pace of evening. A sprinkling truck passed slowly, sweeping the dusty, rutted street with a spurting broom of water. Gleeful kids ran out behind it and splashed in the puddles, squealing happily. Spanish squeals they were. The Commandancia's off the tourist beat, and all the while, somewhere back inside the building, an autopsy surgeon worked on a corpse.
Bueno, señor. Ya está listo. The medical is all finished now.
Well, what's the verdict, Perot?
It's what we are thinking. Él se mató por veneno. He was, how you say, poison.
What kind of poison?
Él dice cianura. How you call it?
Cyanide?
Si, señor, cyanide. And here say also are very much cyanide in this bottle which you has give to me.
Yeah, I thought it smelled like it. Al drank a glass and a half out of it and then dropped dead right in front of the camera.
And you are saying the wrong man has drunk it? The wrong one is get killed, no?
That's right. Charlie Burton was supposed to play that role himself. But this morning at breakfast, he agreed to let Al have the part. I was there, I heard it.
So if he was not do that, he is one who will be dead now.
Sure, Charlie Burton himself. And it figures, Peral. He's been the target all along. That threatening note that was slipped under his door, somebody firing a shot at him last night.
Si, seguro.
Then when they finally got their punch in, they tagged the wrong guy.
I don't understand what has happened to this Nacho Morales.
Valena's husband, the maid at the hotel that Charlie kept annoying.
Ensenada, no, is one big place. It's very small, this town. And we are look every place, senor, but we are no find this man.
I don't know, Peral. And yet I got a hunch he's the key to this whole thing.
We find him, senor. There's no way for escape this town. We find him muy pronto now. You bet your life.
Item 13, $1.40. Taxi back to the hotel. Lights were coming on. A cool breeze was starting to blow in off the Pacific, and the whole town was brightening up to the challenge of the night. But not me. Technically, of course, the job I'd been sent here to do was still under control. Big-time comedian Charlie Burton, a great big lovable scream to his public, had been insured by his television sponsor for $500,000. Then Burton had received the anonymous note threatening his life, so I was here to protect the insurance company's investment. I didn't care personally what happened to Burton. It was just a job. But I did care about Al.
Johnny?
Oh, hello, Gloria.
What is it, Johnny? What happened? No one seems to know anything definite about it.
Al Schreiber's dead, poisoned. That's all I know about it. Come on in the lounge. I'll buy you a drink.
All right, Johnny. Have they found that man who was missing? What's his name?
Nacho Morales. No, he's still missing. This table all right?
Sure, anywhere.
Waiter.
Si, senor.
2 margaritas, please.
Muy bien.
Frank Maltz said something about Charlie and Al changing parts.
Yeah. Maltz got Charlie mad, and he made the switch to prove a point.
What point?
That Al wasn't ready for a starring role. Oh, that's right. You didn't come down for breakfast this morning.
No, I wasn't in today's scenes, so I just slept in.
It's just as well. It wasn't a very pretty sight.
Oh, it's a rotten shame. Al was a real swell guy.
Con permiso, señora.
Oh, here you are.
Gracias, senor.
Boy, the irony in this world, Johnny.
What do you mean?
Charlie Burton, who's been a rat all his life, makes his usual crude play for the maid here in the hotel, and what happens? Her husband hits back at the wrong man. Al gets killed. A kid who'd never harm anybody in his life, and Charlie gets off scot-free.
I was with Captain Peral last night when he talked to the Morales girl, Nacho's wife. She doesn't speak any English, Gloria, and she says her husband doesn't either.
Well, he wouldn't need to, would he, to pull a trigger or poison a bottle of
Maybe
water?
not. But he would, in order to write a threatening note in English.
Oh, yeah, I'd forgotten about that.
If Nacho's in it, he's not in it alone. And I've got a hunch he's...
El teléfono, senor.
Oh, thanks. Johnny Dollar.
This is Capitan Parral, senor.
What is it, Peral?
We have just found this man, Nacho Morales.
Good. I'll be right down.
But, Johnny, do you think Frank Maltz might have...
Not if he was after Charlie Burton. He knew that Al, not Burton, was going to drink out of that bottle.
But didn't everybody know that?
No, not everybody, Gloria. You didn't. Nacho Morales was sitting alone in the starkly barren detention room of the Commandancia. He was a small man, maybe a few years older than his wife. A field worker with gnarled hands and a bent back. He was waiting patiently, quietly, gripping the brim of his sombrero in his hands, trying to hide the fear, the terror that lay just behind his eyes. His eyes flickered slightly as Peral and I opened the steel-grilled door. And then he waited.
Buenos días, hombre.
Buenos días, capitán.
Tú eres Nacho Morales, ¿es verdad?
Sí, señor.
¿Y eres tu esposa de Evelina Morales?
Sí, señor.
¿Cómo pasó la noche, hombre?
Pues,
Blocked off by the barrier of language, I watched while Peral questioned him, stopping now and then to translate.
En la barca de pesca.
Then Peral asked the question that started the avalanche.
Es la pura verdad, señor.
Dígame una cosa. ¿Por qué tú trataste de matar al señor anoche?
Why did you try to kill that man last night?
No, capitán, es mentira decirlo. Yo no traté de matar a nadie. No es
In answer to Peral's accusation, Nacho's story poured out in a flood of Spanish. And as I stood there listening to it translated, I began to feel sick inside. I'd been blind. All the facts were there, all the evidence, and I'd still failed to spot the play. Nacho's story was the key. It fit, and I knew he was telling the truth. He'd been hiding out on a friend's fishing boat since the night before. He knew he'd be accused. Because he had been at the hotel when the shot was fired through Burton's window. He was hiding in the shrubbery by the terrace, and he'd seen the whole thing. The shot had been fired by Charlie Burton himself.
Who is it?
Johnny Dollar. I want to talk to you, Burton.
All right. Just a minute. What is it, Dollar? Have they caught that killer yet?
Nacho Morales, you mean? Yeah. Peral picked him up about an hour ago. I just came from there.
Has he confessed?
No, he hasn't.
Well, they ought to beat it out of him. That's the only way to make that kind talk.
It is, huh? Sit down, Burton. I think you're due for a shock.
What are you talking about?
Nacho didn't try to kill you.
Well, then who did?
Nobody.
Are you crazy? What about Al Schreiber? I suppose he's not even dead.
Oh, he's dead, all right. You ought to know. You killed him. That was your whole plan, wasn't it, Burton? To kill Al Schreiber and get away with it. Everything else was a preliminary build-up.
That's very funny. You ought to be on television.
Well, there's going to be an opening soon. You wrote that threatening letter yourself.
What?
And then tore it up after Maltz had seen it so it couldn't be traced back to you.
You get better all the time.
You fired that shot through your window from the terrace there. More build-up. Then you made your play, that phony argument this morning.
Oh, really?
Switching parts with Al, putting him on the spot, making it look as though somebody had tried to poison you and missed. It was fairly clever, Burton, but you're still going to be tagged for it.
Does Peral know all this?
Why don't you ask him? I'll be glad to step...
All right, Dollar. Don't move. Get your hands up now. Real slow.
Is that the same gun you used last night?
You're wrong, you know. I'm not going to be tagged.
Relax, Burton. There's no capital punishment in Mexico. You can star in all the prison shows.
You're too smart, Dollar. You're like Al. And you know what happened when he got too smart.
You have dropped his gun, senor.
Peral.
I started to tell you I'd be glad to call him that he was listening out there on the terrace.
He's gone. You drop quick.
No.
Look out, Peral!
Mira, senor. I am not shoot too bad, I think.
No, not bad at all, Peral. Well, he asked for it.
I am see he is go to pull his trigger, so I are to shoot much fast. Bam, bam, bam. I tell you, he's look very surprised, senor.
Yeah. It's too bad he couldn't have seen the look on his face. A comedian would have really appreciated it. Why, he'd have died laughing. Item 14, $462.30. Hotel and miscellaneous in Ensenada and transportation back to Hartford. Expense account total, $791.55. End of account, end of report. Remarks? Ray policy on the life of Charles Z. Burton, deceased. Refer clause 34, subparagraph C, quote. If the insured dies while committing a felony, this policy is null and void, unquote. The Superior Court of Baja California rules that Burton was shot while resisting arrest and committing an assault with a deadly weapon. So you can keep your $500,000. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Now, here's our star to tell you about next week's intriguing story.
Next week, a frantic chase across the country after a girl who couldn't possibly exist. Then suddenly turned up. Join us, won't you? Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Bob Bailey, is transcribed in Hollywood. Written by Les Crutchfield, it is produced and directed by Jack Johnstone. Heard in this week's cast were Virginia Gregg, John Daner, Lucille Meredith, Lawrence Dobkin, Gil Stratton, Harry Bartell, and Don Diamond. Musical supervision by Amerigo Marino and Carl Fortina. Be sure to join us on Monday night, same time and station, for another exciting story of yours truly, Johnny Dollar. This is Roy Rowan speaking.
Oh, John Daner was so good at playing those smarmy roles, wasn't he? He really was. June 15th, 1956, yours truly, Johnny Dollar, on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Would you thank this radio station and support their advertisers? It is their kindness and courtesy that allows us to be with you each and every time we roll around here on your favorite radio station. Now, if you miss a day on this station, you don't have to miss a single show. If you have any of these apps, you can get our shows anytime on demand. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Amazon, a whole bunch more. I've got a whole big list up at our webpage, but all you have to do is search for Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. That's Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. The complete list is up at my webpage, classicradio.stream. That is classicradio.stream. You can stream our shows on demand, learn more about classic radio collecting. You can find our social media links. You can contact me. You can even buy me a copy if you like. Of course, if you buy me a copy, I'll say thanks. I'll just use that for a Dr. Pepper. I will. classicradio.stream. classicradio.stream. Thanks for listening. Tell all your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station.